When we learned about that, 20 some odd years ago, many of us, we would talk about it, we would lament, oh my gosh, may God, give them the strength, and we would pray about it. And that was really important. But Salam did something else. He did all that, but he actually took action. And he served as a board member of the American Committee to Save Bosnia. And as that member, he went to Congress, he lobbied Congress to end the genocide in Bosnia. And he continued to be deeply involved in interfaith activities in Los Angeles. If you all remember, in 1992, after the violent uprising and the violence that was occurring in LA, again, he emerged as a leader in the interfaith world. He's married to Dr. Salam Al-Marayati, the founder of the Muslim Women's League and a member of the Advisory Committee on Religious Freedom from the former Secretary of State. They actually, Hillary Clinton asked them to both organize the Eid celebration at the White House a couple of years ago. So husband and wife are a dynamic duo. And lastly, so you can Google all that. But what you cannot Google is that he's an exceedingly compassionate and thoughtful leader who fearlessly embraces progress, equity, and justice on a very deep level. And he doesn't seek the limelight. You're not going to see him, all over the news and all over the TV. But he works to have, and this is what I think is so important, because he works to have a Muslim voice in every aspect of American conversation. Media, government, academia, policy. So he's working to get Muslims everywhere in this country where decisions are made. And his impact has been felt in DC for decades, and he's provided insight on the American Muslim identity to people like President Barack Obama and Secretary Hillary Clinton. And as his name suggests, Salam, he is a true peacemaker. We're honored to consider him our family friend and honored he could make this trip to Little Rock. Please join me in welcoming Salam Al-Marayati.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. That is some introduction, Sarah. I think anything else I'm going to say now, I'm just going to go down. So that was very, very kind of you. Very generous introduction. A bit too much, but it was heartfelt. So I really, really appreciate. The Eid celebration we did was not just a few years ago, by the way. It was back in the 90s when it was President Clinton, which I was on his street today, by the way. I learned that as a person from Los Angeles. And another thing I want to correct, you said, and we have somebody who came all the way from Los Angeles. For me, to go from Los Angeles to another part of Los Angeles takes longer than coming from Los Angeles to Little Rock. So I'm very fortunate to be here and enjoy the company and the Southern hospitality and the good food and the Madina Institute, which I salute you for, because we need more Madina Institutes in the American Muslim community. We need Islamic education that provides enlightenment, compassion, that preserves human dignity without judging any human being, because as the Quran says, God is the best of all judges. So we applaud you for establishing this great institute, and we look to have a strong and continuing partnership with you. On the issue of Islam in America, when they say, is Islam compatible with America? That's already a loaded question. When they say Islam versus the West, Islam versus the West is the lie that keeps on giving. It keeps on giving us wars. It keeps on giving us terrorism. It keeps on giving us ghettoization. It keeps on giving us xenophobia. It's a lie. And we have to dismantle that myth. Islam is not a geography. Allah nur samawati wal ard. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. So Islam is beyond even universal. It is not limited to a geography. And the West is a geography. It is not a faith. It is people that are just driving the wedge to limit Islam, to limit our civil rights. But as the, excuse me, brothers in the back, could you? It's just a little distracting. I would just appreciate it. Thank you. And my point is that it distorts Islam. It creates a fear in American society that people are being dragged into more fear, more xenophobia, more war, and more suffering. So our job as American Muslims in alleviating the fear in the rest of society is a service to America. It's a service to Islam, and it is a service to America. And that is where I see our vital contribution today, to make an opportunity for our young leaders. And as Sarah said in her remarks, we are here not just to produce leaders for the Muslim community, we are here to produce leaders for America. We are only 1% of the population. And the best way to be effective and influential is to be the brains of the society. The brain is not the majority of the body, but it is the most crucial part of the body, and we should have that impact, and we can have that impact on the nerve centers of America. So let us review then this idea of Islam and pluralism in America. The problem is we get sucked into the geopolitics of the issue and not to the ethics and values of Islam. We deal with dogma and nationalism and tribalism, whereas we should focus on Islamic ethics and universality and human dignity. Islam was sent to us to preserve human dignity. That is its major contribution to society, to civilization. وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. It is our job to defend the human dignity of every human being, no matter what religion they belong to, or if they don't have a religion, no matter what lifestyle they practice, or whether they're religious or not religious. Islam's contribution is to defend the human dignity. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, He breathed from His spirit into every human being. Whereas they say that we are created in the image of God, Islam says, no, we are created in the spirit of God. And that spirit is what we have to liberate to bring Islam closer to society. So we should look to the future, not the past. We should look forward, not backward. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wal tanzur nafsun ma qaddamat lighad. Wattaqullaha innallaha khabirun bima ta'malun. O you who believe, be conscious of God and see what you are going to be doing for tomorrow. And be conscious of God. God is aware of all that you do. So Islam is telling us, look forward, not backward. And Islam is a religion that tells us that we have a cry for freedom. When we say, La ilaha illallah, that is my cry for freedom. I will not submit to any man. I will not submit to any king. I will not submit definitely to any tyrant that is using my religion to promote tyranny. Islam liberates me from that tyranny. It is similar to what Patrick Henry said. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. Now, if Patrick Henry were a Muslim, he'd be in Guantanamo right now. But that is what is the essence of America. That struggle for freedom. That struggle to be free and not to let anybody control your mind or control your behavior. And when we say La ilaha illallah, it's not just one God that we believe in, but we believe in one human family. It is the unity of all of humanity, as well as the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Tawheed. So, since I'm at the Madina Institute, I wanted to cover 4 important points from the Madina Constitution. You know, when the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina in the Hijrah in 622, there was a plan involved. It wasn't just a spider and a bird that made the Hijrah possible. It was a human struggle that involved planning, that involved ups and downs, that involved dealing with people and understanding where they are, starting from where they are, and bringing them to a higher state of their human beingness. And what does the Madina Constitution tell us? It tells us 4 very important things. The Madina Constitution, and some people call it the Medina Constitution, some people call it the covenant, some people call it just a contract, but the idea is that it is the first document that really establishes the rules of governance between the ruler and the ruled. Before, it would be whoever's the chief, and the chief comes in, and the chief would make the rules. And whoever's close to the chief, they benefit. Whoever doesn't is not close to the chief, they don't benefit. They lose. So this is the first document in history that is democratic, that is egalitarian, and that respects the human dignity of every group. So, for example, the first important lesson of the Medina Constitution is that it obliterates the model of tribalism. It says we are not tribes anymore, we are an ummah. Now we are a community. Yes, you have your tribe, but now you're part of a larger context. Just like when we say we're here in America, but I'm from Iraq, and you're from Pakistan, and this person's from Somalia. Those are my roots, but my home is America. As the founder of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, Dr. Mahathir said, Allah yarhamu, he died 4 years ago, he said, home is not where my grandparents are buried. Home is where my grandchildren are going to be raised. And the problem with many of our Muslim organizations in America, they have not figured out where home is, except that baby. That's where it's the future of our children and grandchildren that should be the priority of the parameters by which we make our decisions. And so the Medina Constitution said this is now a new construct, and not only are we going to include you because you're Muslim or you're part of this tribe or that tribe, it says those who follow us, join us, and struggle with us, they are part of our new construct. And that, by the way, is exactly what the American Constitution is about. You can be a citizen in America. You cannot be a full-fledged equal citizen in Europe. You cannot be a full-fledged equal citizen in the Middle East unless your bloodline is proven to be part of whatever the ruling establishment is. In America, with all the politics, we know the problems, but the system is set up that we have equal citizenship, and we demand it, and we fight for it because this is our home. So this is the first important lesson that started in 622, whereas the Constitution was 1789, so that's a difference of 1,167 years before the U.S. Constitution. The second important part of the Medina Constitution is this idea of religious pluralism. In it, it talks about all the different tribes, and it says they have their religion, and the Jews have their religion, and we have ours. The Jews are an ummah, the Jews of Beni Os or Khazraj or whatever group that it's talking about. The Jews of that tribe are an ummah alongside the believers. So it is a construct also for coexistence. Not just tolerance, but actually living together. And we will apply the rule of law, and you have your religious law, so that will apply to your community. We have our religious law, that will apply to our community. So the idea of religious coexistence by respecting and allowing each community to apply what their religion commands from them. So there is that freedom of religion that comes from the Medina Constitution. Following the Quranic mandate, La ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in matters of faith. Yet we see compulsion and the ideology of compulsion too often here in the United States and unfortunately in Muslim majority countries. But the idea then, what the Prophet ﷺ is doing, he's letting people feel the benefit of Islam, not to feel that Islam is imposing on them. And the Quran says that we have made these religions and sent you these revelations so that it establishes equity and it will benefit people. It will be a benefit to people. That is really how we should measure ourselves. The third important aspect of the Medina Constitution is it established this city, the Medina now, that was called Yathrib, now we call it Medina al-Munawwara, the city of light, of enlightenment. And Medina was declared a sanctuary. In other words, everybody was safe and protected once they were inside Medina. And this is something that every human being, as much as we take it for granted here, by the way, when we see the atrocities, that is really the thing that is violating the human dignity of the people of Syria and the people of Yemen and the people of Myanmar and the Chinese Muslims and the Palestinians and so many other areas where people are oppressed, is they are not safe. And it is worse, by the way, when you're not safe under a Muslim ruler. That is the ultimate hypocrisy, when somebody claims to rule by Islam, but they are not protecting their people. They're actually violating the rights of their own people. So the idea of a sanctuary then is important, and we have the Statue of Liberty in America that talks about America being that sanctuary. Again, that is being debated or possibly compromised, but the idea of it, the principle, is here in America. And the fourth point in this model that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam established was that there would be security, and that the Muslims would go and defend the state on behalf of everyone, and other groups would be involved in some security, but limited, in other words, in their responsibility. While the Muslims would offer people the rights, their responsibilities was not as much as the Muslims. That is when you are a real leader, is when you take care of your people and you take more responsibility and give them the rights and not take rights away from them and take more authority for yourself. So these are the four very important aspects of the Medina Constitution that are very compatible with our American charters of government. For example, in the Declaration of Independence, it says, governments are instituted among deriving their just power, among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That sounds like shura. That is shura. Shura is the seed of democracy that was planted by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as the Quran says, Ya alladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u al-rasula wa ulil amri minkum. So when we read that verse, it says, "O you have attained to faith, pay heed unto God and pay heed unto the apostle and unto those from among you who have been entrusted with authority." The tyrants use that verse to say, you have to obey me. The verse actually says, I only obey those that I have entrusted from among us with authority. It is a verse of entrustment, of actually voting somebody into power, not obeying blindly somebody who is implanted by some other political force that is not working for my interest. And so people exploit the Quran. They also obviously exploit the Bible when they use the Bible to justify the separation of family at the borders. That is religious exploitation. So we have so much in common. In fact, the Fiqh Council of North America said, secular legal systems in Western democracies generally share the same supreme objectives and are generally compatible with Islamic law. That is an amazing statement, because it completely takes away this notion that secularism and Islam are at odds with one another. At the end of the day, it's really about how we define secularism. You can define secularism as anti-religion, or you can define secularism as neutral on religion. Europe's definition is different from America's definition. The American definition is basically that government has no business in religion. And when government does have business in religion, religion suffers. Because then people feel like religion is imposing on them. If I oppose the government, it's as if I'm opposing God. And I don't like that feeling, so I move away from my religion. And the idea then is that the ruler is there for the human rights of the people, not to spread his or her religion. We spread our religion by example, by doing good work. That is how our religion spread, not by seizing power and trying to impose an ideology on other people. And when we think about the status of Muslims in America, we need to study Jews, Catholics, and Mormons as other religious groups that had the same issue in terms of being accepted and involved and empowered in America. They were limited. They were discriminated. The Mormons were almost practically obliterated and eliminated by the federal army, yet they survived, and look where they are now. It is not an easy struggle. It's not an easy path towards empowerment, but it is the path that must be taken. And by having Islam in America, we think of it as the light in the room. The light in the room is not the largest part of the room, but it is the most important part of the room. It gives us a means to understand our direction, to see who we are, to see what we're dealing with. Light is enriching. It is not alienating. Light is additive. It is not competitive. Light is illuminating. It is not limiting. That is how we see Islam in America, as that light, the light bulb in the room that helps people see the truth from falsehood and see what is in the best interest of our society. There's a woman named Diane I want to tell you about. She is terminally ill. She will die probably in about 6 to 8 months. And she lived in Turkey and Jordan and Lebanon back in the 70s. And she said the Muslims treated her so well when she lived in those countries. Now, before her death, she wants to do something for Muslims here and offer a legacy gift for Muslim organizations to tell the story that Muslims are good people. And I tell you that story because it's not about finding the political savior. As much as we liked President Clinton and President Obama, and some people may like Bush or not, I don't know. We have to be bipartisan here. But the point is, they are not the answers. The answer is here. It is our stories. You know what a cascade is? It starts with a drop. A drop becomes a stream. A stream becomes a river turns into a waterfall. It starts with each of us giving that drop of wisdom, that drop of something that helps another human being, and then we will see the truth of Islam come to light, and we'll see the benefit of Islam in our society. And it's about compassion, your first value. And there's a hadith of compassion that is very interesting to me because it seems that we don't really take it to heart. It's a hadith in Bukhari 31:43 and Muslim 22:45, where the Prophet ﷺ said that he saw a prostitute who saw a panting dog and was very thirsty, so she took her shoe and put it in the well and gave the dog water. And that moment of compassion made it so that all her sins were forgiven. It's about a dog and a prostitute. We sometimes look at people who walk into our room and say they don't fit here, whereas the mosque is the place where we have compassion and no judgment for anyone. And we have that freedom in America. I, in America, can do so many things that I cannot do in a Muslim majority country. I'll give you an example. I gave a khutbah at a Sunni mosque at noon, and I drove to do Ashura in a Shi'i mosque at sunset, commemorating the symbol of resistance against tyranny of Imam Hussein. And then I went to a political fundraiser, and then after that, I drove all the way back home to meet my wife, to watch a high school football game, and we walked the dog. I cannot do that in a Muslim majority country. You can do that in America. We have that opportunity, and we have to believe in the cause in order to see that Islam is that light for America, that Muslims will be the leaders for America, that our children will have more opportunities in America. But we have to believe in God's cause. You can believe in God and believe in Islam, but you have to believe in the cause and do the work or give the support to get the work done. Even though the task seems daunting, even though the odds are against us, when we look at all the powers, there is no government that represents us. But because we believe that Islam is that light, and the good word is like a good tree, and it will be established. And God promises those who promote the good word, He promises that He will establish them firmly in this life and the hereafter. And in doing that, we ultimately will be victorious, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Salam Al-Marayati, for that thought-provoking discourse, honestly. Our next guest is the hilarious Baba Ali. He co-founded Ummah Films, the Muslim film company that provides halal entertainment to Muslims and non-Muslims. The company has provided several successful websites. Baba Ali has appeared on the Islam channel and has become a frequent guest at various Muslim conferences and events, such as the Mass Iqna Conference, Evening of Inspiration, the Global Peace and Unity event, and the Muslim Fest. Please join me in welcoming Baba Ali.